welcome to another segment of my YouTube channel. Today is a very interesting conversation. Interesting in that, I'm speaking to an individual who was not born in this country, but she is a diehard Turks and Caicos Islander. And we want to hear from that perspective. And I know we hear a lot of terms, indigenous, we hear, this and that, and you hear how can you, love both countries. We want to have a conversation. And we really want to have a frank conversation today. And it's my pleasure to have in my midst a very good friend of mine, Miss Rose Higgs. Rose.
Good afternoon, Drax, and good afternoon, Turks and Caicos. Drax, it's my pleasure to be here, having this conversation with you. I think it's a worthwhile conversation, and maybe something can come out of it that others might be able to speak to their lives and the way that they're living in terms of living in a country that you're not born in, but loving it just the same.
I think at the end of this show, a lot of people will be inspired and they want to speak more about it. Now, Rose, you migrated from Haiti in 1975. That's what?
Many years ago.
Yeah, many years ago. That's what, 46 years ago?
Let's just say many years ago.
Obviously, 75 is totally different from, 2021. But for many of us who don't know what it was like back then in 1975, what was it like being from Haiti and living here in the Turks and Caicos in 1975?
Well, for me, it was an experience. Leaving your home, leaving the mother that and the sisters and the brothers and the whole family, and migrating to a new country with new individuals that now becomes your mom and your dad, and also that speak a different language, so we didn't know how to communicate, but we found a way. I can imagine for, the 2020s, children that came after me. When I first came here, I was the only child. I was the only Haitian child that was in the 5 Keys primary school. So that makes me, the center of attention, because here it is, you can't dialogue with the other kids. As a matter of fact, my first day at school, I got in a fight.
Really?
Yeah, I got in a fight. And the gentleman is still here today, so every time I see him, I always tease him, ask him if he wanted me to beat him again. But yeah, it was very different. Because when I think about the kids that are migrating now, at least most of them, they're not coming into a family that they don't know, and they're not coming into a house that they cannot, they're not being understand, they can't communicate. So for me, it was just totally different. And some of the things that happens today, I think would still exist in 75, because we still had the issues of you're different than I am, and that created a little frictions and stuff every now and then. But I think now, in this era, I had a much harder time, to be honest. I had a much harder time than the children who are migrating now or since me, because as now they're coming into a school that have so many of their same country boys and girls, and they can communicate and all of that, which for me, it was just different. I was the only, I was the sole survivor, or the loner, I should say, in that environment at that time.
So when you went to school, I know you say you got into a fight, but you say you were the only person of Haitian descent there. Were you treated differently? Were you bullied? Were you looked down upon?
Well, I've had experiences where I was bullied, and I was looked down upon. But God has always blessed me from a very young age, that I really always take a bad situation and make it a good experience. So I was always like, for instance, I had a lot of growing up. I was a little pretty little girl, long hair. So I can remember like now when I go to Sunday school, and we used to have some of the guys that would come over from North Caicos or other places, and they would be talking to the other girls. And then when I show up, because my mom was a seamstress and stuff like that, so she made pretty clothes and stuff. And when I showed up and I would see them asking questions, and I would hear, she's a Haitian. So that used to make me feel away, and I used to be ashamed, because I'm a Haitian. And one of the worst things that used to happen to me, I didn't mind being called Haitian, but oh Lord, when you say Spician, ooh, that like it used to go to my very core and make me so embarrassed. So I used to, feel shy about that. And then I go like, wait a minute, Rose, you gotta come on, take this experience and make it into something good. So what I would do now is whenever I meet someone new, maybe doesn't have to be from another island, maybe from one of the other Salmon, because I was in 5 Keys. So maybe the children from Blue Hills come over, and the first thing this was how I used to introduce myself. My name is Rose, and I'm from Haiti. I'm a Haitian.
Really?
So what happened is, when I started doing that, the persons that were always call me Haitian, or would tell other people that I'm Haitian as if I'm different and I'm less than, they stop. They'd be the one, girl, you ain't no Haitian.
That's interesting. That is very
You
interesting.
ain't no Haitian. You're from here. So I always address my own, I learned how to address my own elephant in the room.
Okay.
And I think sometimes when you do that, it takes away the power from other people to use it against you. So that's what I used to do. And that's up to today. Up to today, I always say, I'm a Haitian Turks and Caicos Islander. So I own that, own being a Haitian, so that no one could have a reason to use it against me.
So you already tell them what they're thinking, you just let them know up front who you are. But I mean, I've seen a lot of posts that you've written, and you're very passionate about the Turks and Caicos Islands. I see you address issues that, Turks and Caicos Islanders do not address, that we should be addressing. And to me, you are Turks and Caicos Islander. I'm not going to call you Haitian Turks and Islander. You are a Turks and Caicos Islander. You've been there since 1975, and you have the right to be a Turks and Caicos Islander. What do you think make you so passionate about being a Turks and Caicos Islander, even though you are originally from Haiti?
Well, my experience might be a little bit different than other people who migrated here, or the children that migrated here. And one of the things that make me so passionate about being a Turks and Caicos Islander, because I kind of stated from the beginning that I kind of have somewhat a different way of thinking. So, from a young age, I know that I had to embrace first where I came from. Because if I didn't, then it would be used against me all the time. So I had to embrace that. And then at the same time of embracing where I come from, I had to embrace where I am now. Where I am now. So another thing that I tell other fellow Haitians or anybody who migrated here that are not classified as the indigenous Turks and Caicos Islander is that whilst you must love where you come from, you must love where you're living. So I love where I'm living. Turks and Caicos is my home. Turks and Caicos is my home. I love everything about Turks and Caicos. I'm very passionate about the country, about the people. So for me, while I am passionate about Turks and Caicos, and I understand that I am living in Turks and Caicos. So every other nationality, or I should, of course, Turks and Caicos Islands take a precedent because we are in Turks and Caicos. So I love Turks and Caicos because it has afforded me a good life. It given me a good family. I'm blessed. I have two families. I have my Haitian family that I got to reunite with at a later age in my life. And then I have my family here in the Turks and Caicos. So I'm all Turks and Caicos, yes.
So Rose, there's a lot of people who are upset. Sometimes they see people coming to the country and they feel that, people are coming here, they're getting their status as Turks and Caicos Islanders, and they're getting the same benefits as a Turks and Caicos Islander. And I know you wrote an article, you say once you're Turks and Caicos Islander, you're Turks and Caicos Islander. Could you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that?
Okay.
And I want to come back to another question after that.
Okay. Well, a Turks and Caicos Islander, once you would have gained the legal right to call yourself or be labeled as a Turks and Caicos Islander, then that's what you are. You are a Turks and Caicos Islander. The privileges of being a Turks and Caicos Islander, paper Turks and Caicos Islander, is no different or no less than an indigenous Turks and Caicos Islander who would have gotten their citizenship through heritage. For me, sometimes I take it a little bit further when I say, when you hear people say, "Oh, you're a paper belonger," or "You're a paper Turks and Caicos Islander." The real question is, how else do you prove you are a citizen of this country unless you provide a piece of paper?
True.
So we are all, whether you're a Turks Islander from heritage, or I'm a Turks Islander because I gain it through other means. At the end of the day, the only way we can prove that you are a Turks and Caicos Islander is by producing that piece of paper. So at the end of the day, there's no distinction of Turks and Caicos Islander. Now, should there be? I don't know. There are persons who believe that there should be, for those that are indigenous nationals of this country. So perhaps, that's a conversation that needs to be had, and maybe the powers that be need to come up with some criteria or whatever. But until that is done, right now, a Turks and Caicos Islander is a Turks and Caicos Islander. How do you prove it? Through a piece of paper. So.
You're right. I mean, like any country, once you become a citizen of that country, you are a citizen. You don't have to differentiate whether you are Haitian TI or Dominican TI or Bahamian TI, and that's a big issue that we face in our country today. And I know you mentioned that once you're Turks and Caicos, but do you think that there should be special privileges or entitlement to the indigenous Turks and Caicos Island, even though you say the government will have to decide how they want to do it? But do you think that, because a lot of Turks and Caicos Islanders believe that they are entitled to certain privileges because that's who they are. They don't believe that everybody who has a citizenship should get the same benefits as them. And I know you mentioned, obviously, once you said you're a citizen, but do you think there are we entitled to have that sense of entitlement?
Well, to be honest, personally, I think so. Because even though I'm not an indigenous, I understand the plight of the indigenous. And, sometimes when they say, well, I'm a Turks and Caicos Islander, I was born here, my mommy was born here. There is such a word as an indigenous of a country. And so, yeah, whatever it be, I don't know how, the benefits how they would categorize the various benefits, but perhaps, yes, I can support that.
So you wouldn't be offended then, being a Turks and Caicos Islander, not being an indigenous, so to speak, you would not be offended then if certain privileges are granted to the indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders. You wouldn't be offended.
No. Personally, no. No. Because, like I say, most time, I'm a Haitian Turks and Caicos Islander. I'm a Haitian belonger. Because I do understand. I was not born here. So an indigenous people, they do have certain, most places have certain stuff, benefits that the indigenous native of that country would be privy to less than someone else who might have gotten their citizenship by other means. I don't know what level, but no, I wouldn't have a problem if they do, if they do come up with something that that indigenous can say, okay, I have an edge over you because I didn't gain this by paper. But the issue with that in the Turks and Caicos is, do we have, real indigenous people? Because if you look at most of the families and you were to, go through their background and stuff, you would see that an indigenous can be mixed. An indigenous breed of people cannot be mixed. So perhaps, through research and through further discussion, we might find out that there isn't much indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders that are here. So
You're probably right. Now, Rose, I think the Haitian community, is the largest sector of immigrants in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And of course, we have the Flag Day, and they celebrate that, which is rightful. That's their country. But then you'll find that some of us, we get upset when we see that celebration by them, and we don't see them to say our local events such as you have the Jason Candid Day, you got the Heritage Day, and then some people tend to question the loyalty of people who are celebrating their country's milestones. What do you say about that? Because you celebrate your country's milestone, does that mean that you're not loyal to the country that you live in and have citizenship to?
No. I don't think that's a problem, celebrating the country events such as Flag Day in another country, such as the Turks and Caicos. I think one of the issues, that the Turks and Caicos Islanders have is something that you said earlier. You celebrate your country day and your country festivities, but then you're not mingling with us. So maybe that's where the real gripe comes in.
Got it.
And what I do a lot of is I try to educate and speak to a lot of patients whenever that comes around, and they have their grievance, and I always try to show them, somehow as to why we have certain resentment. Sometimes we as Haitians play a role in it as well, okay? Because it would, when you really look at it, like for me, I attend the Haitian Flag Days, and I attend the whatever Turks and Caicos having. So it's not even only Haitians, but all the other nationalities that's living in this country. I think they can do more in assimilating themselves, into the Turks and Caicos way, or, functions or way of doing things that maybe can soften the heart of the Turks and Caicos Islander to look and say, oh, yeah, I see that it's come around us, so, But when we don't see you with us, and then you just having your own little function in Turks and Caicos, you putting a high, you kind of putting a radar on your own self, and then you create kind of little animosity between. But I don't see anything wrong with natives of various countries celebrating their significant days or whatever in another man's country, as long as you too join in and help the natives of the country that you're living in celebrate and highlight their days. Push their Jags Day as well. There's nothing stopping you from putting together a little activity that present your whatever nationality background that you're coming from with doing something on Jags Day for Jags. So that when you do your own thing, then people wouldn't have so much, oh, they couldn't come to us, but look at them and they're in their country, so why they back in their country, and create that kind of thing. So I think us as far as citizens that are not of that weren't born here but gain our citizenship through otherwise, I think we can do more to assimilate ourselves into the Turks and Caicos culture.
I think that's a very important point you made about assimilation. And I believe if everyone could assimilate rather than everybody in their own little separate corners, I think will make living in harmony allow us to live in harmony. Because at the moment, I do not like the trend that Turks and Caicos is going on right now. We are a small country, but we're very divided. I remember growing up, we were divided over which island you were from. You had the Grand Turk and South Caicos and Salt Key, who thought that they were better than people from North Caicos and Middle Caicos and Provo. Now we have a bigger problem. We are separated over nationality. We have, so many different, I think we have the last time they researched, over 99 nationalities. Wow. And we're not together. We're not together at all. And whether we like it or not, the country is growing, and people will continue to come here. Citizenship will continue to be going out each year, distributed each year to people. And I think the key is assimilation, Rose. And you made a valid point. You can celebrate your country's, your birth country's milestones, but also celebrate the country that you are living in, because you've been here for years now.
Yeah.
And more than likely, you might even go back to that place where you was born.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a valid point you raised. Rose, what else do you think we could do to bring us together where we see each other as citizens of the Turks and Caicos Islands, rather than foreigners or locals, but as citizens?
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. I don't know, because I think as much as we like to say that, we just want to live as one. But do that really ever happen anywhere? I think you're going to always have a division amongst different, America has it,
Yes.
and they have so many different nationalities that are living there. So I don't think we're going to ever get rid of certain, I'm deserving of this because I'm from here, and you shouldn't have this because you just come here. I don't think we could ever really get rid of it. I just think that what we can do as individuals, we can teach our children. Like, for instance, with my children from a young age, they know that they are Haitians. They have a Haitian mother. They have a TI father, but they have a Haitian mother. I have 2 that were born in the Bahamas and 2 that were born in America. So I teach them how we celebrate 4th of July at home, I do something for the Americans for 4th of July, The Bahamian part, we've never really kind of celebrated that, because to be Bahamian is almost like to be Turks and Caicos Islander. So but I think in the home, we can do more in terms of teaching our children how to be proud of who they are as Turks Islanders, if that's, you're the Turks Islander parent, and how to embrace other nationality and don't see yourself as being superior to any, to others. And I think once we can do that from the home perspective, I think then the harmony, would be able to come into place.
I interviewed Raisha, and Raisha gave you a lot of credit for building, engaging her in being patriotic to Turks and Caicos Islands. And I was very impressed with Raisha's interview. Raisha was born in the United States of America, as you mentioned, as one of your children, but she has a big role in the UK Lion Dam. It's called
Lion King.
Lion King. And even though she was born in the United States, Raisha put her birthplace as Turks and Caicos because she wanted the Turks and Caicos to be showcased on that program, because the program will show who the dancers are, where they're from. And there's no way for her to put Turks and Caicos, so she put birthplace, and she got that patriotism from you. And I just want to commend you on instilling patriotism into your children, particularly the love for Turks and Caicos.
Yes. And like you said, particularly the love for Turks and Caicos, because even though we embrace all of the other heritage, that we have, the Haitian, the American, the Bahamian, but because we're living in Turks and Caicos, then Turks and Caicos have always been the dominant country of patriotism, so I try my best to do that and to promote that within my family. And I think if more parents tends to do that, I think then we would get that. Then that's where the unification and the harmony that we're all looking for and hoping to have one day, it will be, seen through the future generations. So we'll come through that.
Rose, I interviewed a long time ago, about a year ago, I think. I interviewed two young men. They were from Haiti. One of them I think at one point the government of the Turks and Caicos Islands is saying that children who are born to parents who are unskilled laborers, they're not entitled to go to public school for free. And at that time, I believe they sent some of these children back home. And one of them, is very, very upset. He's still upset, even though he came back very, very bitter. He felt that his parents, worked here all their life. He stated that his parents contributed to the Turks and Caicos Islands economy, and he don't feel that he shouldn't have to pay, to apply for his status. What are your thoughts about parents? Children who are born here, whose parents are from Haiti. He said you don't have any. Basically, it's difficult to get a status in Haiti. What are your thoughts about that?
Now you're gonna get me into trouble, Drex.
Really?
Yeah, you're gonna get me into trouble because I kind of have a different point of view on that.
I want to hear it.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I want to hear your point of view.
So now, I'm not only gonna have the Turks and Caicos mad at me,
they're not going to be mad at
the Haitians mad at me.
They're not going to. You're speaking your point of view.
Okay, this is my point on that one. And this is my disclaimer. I don't want anything that I said,
Don't take it personally.
Yeah, for no one to take it personally, because it is what it is. And everyone know me, even in the Haitian community, that I speak it the way I see it or feel it. Now, with the whole issue of children born in the Turks and Caicos and not getting birthright citizenship, until the law is changed towards that, I support the law that's there.
Yeah, which is you have to be 18.
Yeah, that's the law. What I do as well, because I encounter these conversations very often with Haitian people as well, and most of them are saying that, their children are stateless. Which is untrue. The children are stateless because most of the Haitian people doesn't want to get their children the documents that they could have. And one of the documents that they could have is a passport.
From Haiti?
Yeah, from Haiti, which then, once you have a passport, you're not stateless. the Constitution of Turks and Caicos does not provide for birthright citizenship at this time.
Like the United States.
Okay? Like Haiti.
Oh, like Haiti too.
Like Haiti. So Haiti does not have automatic birthright citizenship as well.
Really?
Yeah, really. So, I think that's all I will say on that for now.
No, I mean, I'm glad you raised that because I didn't know that either. So
I think
Haiti's just like Turks and Caicos, basically, you're saying.
Yeah. And the good part about Haiti is that wherever, which I think Turks and Caicos is the same thing. If you are a belonger and you have a child outside of Turks and Caicos, then your child is automatically a Turks and Caicos Islander.
That is true.
Right?
At least one parent.
Yeah, one parent. And so is Haiti. If a Haitian have a child here or Timbuktu, not in Haiti, but once that parent is a Haitian, the child can get a Haitian passport.
Okay.
Yeah. So a Turks Islander cannot go to Haiti and have a baby, and the baby is automatically a Haitian. You know, so everything is through processes. I think a lot of the confusion and a lot of reasons for animosity and all that kind of stuff is just lack of proper communication amongst the two. You know, the Haitians and the Turks Islanders. You know, being able to communicate properly. What is the Lord? But what else? You can't get a passport, right? Your child cannot automatically get a passport if you are of a Haitian parent and you have a child in Turks and Caicos. But what else maybe can they have? And these are the things sometimes that that people doesn't know, and then you feel as if you can't have anything, and then you put this label on yourself as saying you're being stateless. When sometimes, to be honest, you're making yourself stateless, because if you can't get the documents that you need from the country of birth, then get it from somewhere else. But don't have your child without a passport. For the case of emergency, the child cannot even travel because you have denied them from getting what it is they can have. And then I want to also add to that. Now, I think the thing of you have these adult children of Haitian parents that were born here that don't have any sort of documents that can legalize them. I think that is becoming a little bit less and less of something that's more in the past, because now you have where once a child is born in the Turks and Caicos, whether that mother or that father have any sort of status, the child, once they reach the age of 10 years old, they can be registered as a BOTC citizen and get a Turks and Caicos passport. So,
that is, I mean, a very good point. Rose, I really enjoyed this conversation.
So now, based on my answers that I gave a while ago, you're gonna force me to be banned from Turks and Caicos, and then I can't even go to Haiti.
Rose, you're a Turks and Caicos Islander. How can you ban a Turks and Caicos Islander? You are a Turks and Caicos Islander. You're not gonna be banned. Not at all. Not at all. Rose, is there anything else that you think we should talk about that I didn't cover?
I don't know.
But I would love one day that our relationship improve among the indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders. I really love to see. I know, like you say, we're not going to have a perfect harmony, but I think we need to make steps towards it. I would love to see our relationship. Right now, I think when I was growing up in South Caicos, I felt that our relationship with people who are not from Turks and Caicos was better than what it is now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just want to say in closing that I think that the responsibility of us coming together as one people, I really think that it's, yes, I'm not shying away from the fact or denying that there are those in our community that really, 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 go overboard with this "you're not from here" type of thing, mentality, and you're a Haitian. I mean, I still experience it, sometimes, but like I said, I'm just able to let it bounce off my back, and it don't bother me. But I think that when it comes to us being able to live as one people, whether it's American Turks and Caicos, Jamaican Turks and Caicos, Haitian Turks and Caicos, I think the responsibility of that effort lies on all individuals.
Yes.
Okay?
It's a joint effort.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say, oh, the Turks and Caicos Islanders need to do more. No, we all need to do more, because one of the things that we, like I spoke to earlier, that we can do from within our own home is sometimes we have to understand the frustration of the native person.
True.
They feel as if we're invading their space and we're taking away and da da da. And then we feel as if, we should be just as entitled, and we're upset with them.
That is true.
But I've seen where the same persons who thought it's so wrong for the Turks, the indigenous Turks Islanders, they classify themselves, to say that they're entitled to this and you shouldn't have this. When that person now get the piece of paper that makes them just as equal as the indigenous Turks Islander, they are fighting the same fight.
That's interesting.
They're fighting the same fight. All of a sudden, I'm hearing them say, but I'm a Turks and Caicos Islander. And I have to say, so why was it so wrong when the indigenous person said that they, So the thing is,
that is amazing.
It's both of our responsibilities as natives of this country, born natives, and as the persons who are coming in and obtaining the citizenship. It's all of our responsibility to be able to understand one another, and then come together and start it from our home, teaching our children how proud it is to be a Turks Islander and also a Jamaican or whatever. You cannot want to be a Jamaican in your home. You're only portraying the Jamaican heritage and the Jamaican culture and the Jamaican love for country, right, in your home. But then on the outside, you want to be a Turks Islander. So I think we got to know how to blend it all and make it all work. Appreciate Turks and Caicos, appreciate your home, put it all together, teach it to our children how to do it, and then we're going to have a better Turks and Caicos.
Yeah, I love it. And I love when I hear people say, man, I'm a Turks and Caicos Islander, people are not from here. I remember there's a guy I met many years ago, and I ran to him in the parking lot at Gourmet, and he's from Jamaica, and his vehicle is just full of Turks and Caicos flags, and I was so impressed. I was surprised, because I know, it's this one country that's very loyal, it's Jamaicans. But he has made the Turks and Caicos his home. He has assimilated. He displayed Turks and Caicos cultural stuff in his vehicle, and wearing the Turks and Caicos shirt. And that is something I admire.
That's where the real unification is going to come from. It's going to come from. You have to be accepting and embrace it of Turks and Caicos in Turks and Caicos. Because at the end of the day, we all gonna have the same fight. You're gonna once you get that piece of paper that calls you a Turks and Caicos Islander, you're gonna see sometimes where you have to deal with the same evils.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have one more question. Your children, are they treated differently, knowing that you are a Haitian Turks and Caicos Islander?
I don't know. I mean, I never even focus on it. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Just as recently as with Raisha getting the part in The Lion King. And I've had persons that contacted me and say, how come the government did not
showcase her?
Yeah, showcase her. And that it's only because she's a Haitian. Use her mommy, that's why, because she's Haitian, And my answer to that was, and would always be, is no, that's not the reason. The reason is because there's a lack, sorry to say, but there's a lack of patriotism in our leaders, honestly.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
our leaders lack a level of patriotism
And
that
celebrating.
sets them, apart from us. And because of that, then of course they're not as, they can't celebrate young or old Turks and Caicos Islanders when they would have, reached certain milestone. That's what I think. So that's where, it's not about them being of Haitian background or anything. I just think it's because it's just that we need to have a little bit more patriotic pride and spirit. That's the thing, more patriotic spirit in terms of celebrating our Turks and Caicos Islanders. Yeah, period.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. And I want to take this opportunity to also publicly congratulate you on the achievement of your daughter Aisha. I think it's wonderful. It's a big thing for Turks and Caicos. It's a big thing for the world. And so I want to congratulate you publicly on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you've been listening to my YouTube channel. Please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you, Ms. Rose Higgs, for being a guest on my show.
Thank you for having me.